My Hall of Fame friend, and also my compadre from NFL Game Day Morning every single Sunday on NFL Network at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Kurt Warner here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Go.
All right, Kurt, later on in this program, we're going to have a segment about 1-1 teams and which team are they, the week 1 version or the week 2 version.
Okay.
And we're definitely going to be talking about the Steelers. What did we see out of the Steelers offense this week that you noticed on film that stood out and maybe concerned you, or just said, you know what, week 1 is going to be the guy that we see out of Aaron Rodgers most of the year?
I actually said it after week 1 too. Aaron obviously made some great throws, and a lot of those throws, those 4 touchdowns in the first week, were really scheme oriented. It was all basically naked bootleg, so getting out in space, which I think Aaron still feels really comfortable out in space, but he doesn't look real comfortable inside the pocket. And that was the same the first week as what we saw this past week. And so with the other issues that they have as a football team, I think what we saw this last week is more who the Steelers are right now than, what we saw the first week and their ability to come back. But I mean, I think the other indication is the Jets, right? What the Jets did week 1, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's a different team. Look at what they're doing. And then we saw what they did week 2 against the Bills. And so I think all that is a representative of who the Steelers are right now, and who Aaron Rodgers, I think, is as a quarterback. I still just don't think after the injury that he's gotten fully comfortable playing the game inside the pocket, letting things develop, as he did earlier in his career. And so I'm a little concerned about the Steelers.
You are.
Yes.
So what can be done based on what you saw other than just, getting more of a fountain of youth?
Yeah.
If it is on Rodgers, is it on a scheme? I mean, obviously it's usually a combination of things.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I think there's things Aaron Rodgers can still do at a high level. And when I thought this team was going to be good, I thought it was going to be based off of playing good defense, running the football, or having a scheme that, started with running the football, and then the play action game for Aaron Rodgers, which is where I think he's really good at this stage in his career and what we saw in week 1. But right now, they're not playing any defense and they're not running the football. And so now it all falls to Aaron Rodgers and the guys on the outside. And that's the other thing is, DK is there, but I don't know if they have a lot of difference makers in terms of guys that scare you on the outside, that if you are going to play the drop back game, they spread us out. What are we going to do? How are we going to match up? I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, they got a couple good tight ends, but again, those aren't guys that are going to change the complexion of the game on one catch. And so I think, they were built to play that way, defense and run the football and play action game. And they just haven't been great in those other areas the first 2 weeks. And so it's falling more on Aaron to have to play a different way than I think they want to.
And the other quarterback in the game, if I may, and Sam Darnold, what did you see out of him and the Seahawks offense in week 2 that you can hang your hat on or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team. I think they're a team that's going to be built on, kind of what the Steelers want to do, playing good defense and running the football, and then Sam Darnold and the pieces on the outside being more of a complementary piece. I don't think they've been explosive in either game. They got that, that gift handed to them on the, special teams, the kickoff for a touchdown, and got a couple other breaks. But I don't think they're great offensively, but I think they're good enough defensively that with running the football and Sam and, a few of their weapons on the outside, that they're going to be in a lot of football games and have an opportunity to win a lot of them.
Kurt Warner here, my Hall of Fame friend, on his Warner Wednesday spot here on the Rich Eisen Show. So, Tua Tagovailoa, I guess, raised an eyebrow or two, unless it's not worthy of it, by saying something at his press conference podium after falling to 0-2, losing to the Patriots. And there were a couple moments where Tyreek Hill got 100 yards receiving in the game. Tua airmailed him. And that was brought up to Tua and Tyreek's reaction in the game. And this is what he had to say.
Having some talks with Reek and whatnot, that if I do, just don't think that I'm going to throw it 80 yards. Like, as you're running, just do your best to track it because you could potentially stop that's what ended up happening on that play for Reek. And then with him and Waddle with those deeper outbreaking routes, just trying to help them get open while maneuvering, the corner in the flat.
What'd you make of these comments, Kurt?
Well, I mean, the one is obviously off of the long ball that he threw that was kind of more of a punt that he threw it late, and Tyreek had to, come back and try to make a play on it. I mean, of course, yeah. I mean, try to stop and make a play on it if I underthrow you. But, that's one that if Tua's going to make that throw, you got to get it out there and give him a better chance. And the other comment that he was talking about is, doing some things to maneuver the corner to get the corner routes open and stuff. I just think sometimes Tua does too much of that. Instead of just allowing the defense to dictate where to throw it, he's trying to turn his body and manipulate the defense. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, a lot of good quarterbacks manipulate manipulate the defense, to try to make a throw. But sometimes you can do it too much. And sometimes you just have to come back and play. And you've got a corner and a flat, just read the corner. If he drops deep, just throw the flat. If he comes up, throw the corner. But don't try to get him to throw the, to jump the flat every time. And so you can throw the corner. And then if it's not open, then your footwork is all off. And so I think there's a lot of issues. I did a breakdown on my YouTube page, like 50 minutes long on this past game. And I think there's a lot of issues going on. I think there's scheme. There's some of it that's Tua and his footwork and his timing and some of the stuff that we're talking about here. There were details, I believe, on the outside by receivers or how they're teaching it that cost them. I just think there's a whole bunch of issues with this football team right now. It's not just one area. But I've said for a long time that I think it can be a hard offense. What Tua does plays perfectly into what Mike McDaniels wants to do offensively. But when, that doesn't work, when their number one guy isn't schemed open, there's some hard things sometimes in this offense for the quarterback to work through. And so I just think there's a lot of things that they have to get better at. I think what we know is, Tua's got to play on time and in the pocket. And, that's not, it doesn't mean he can't play in this league. It doesn't mean he can't be a great quarterback. It just means the scheme and the guys around him have to help him more than maybe they have to help a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson or a Patrick Mahomes who can overcome some of that stuff. I said it in my breakdown. I was very much like Tua. I wasn't going to be able to create and make plays happen out of nowhere. I needed a scheme and players around me to do what they were supposed to do so I could see it, make decisions, and get the ball out of my hands. And so you just have to have schemes that fit who your quarterback is. We've seen Tua play at an extremely high level, but I just think there's a lot of issues within this scheme and with what Tua is doing right now that's being accentuated because they're stacking on top of each other.
Yeah, and then a Thursday night trip to Buffalo might not be what the doctor ordered at all. Kurt Warner here on the Rich Eisen Show. Again, QB Confidential is what Kurt is referring to on his YouTube channel. Check it all out here on the Rich Eisen Show. A few minutes left with my friend, Kurt Warner. What is working so well for Daniel Jones and the Colts, Kurt?
Yeah, well, I really felt like what Shane Steichen likes to do, a lot of RPOs, a lot of movement of the quarterback, kind of the pure progression read type stuff. I thought it really fit Daniel Jones well. He's a mobile quarterback. He does a nice job with the RPOs and reading that stuff. But he's just playing really good football right now. He looks very comfortable in their system. Their team is a good team. That they're solid across the board. Good offensive line. I mean, saw Jonathan Taylor run for 160 yards in the game. They got a good solid defense that, can turn teams over and they don't give up a lot of points in big plays. And then again, Daniel fits their system very, very well. It's not a lot of spread out, drop back, have to read the whole field. They designed it around, trying to make the game easier for the quarterback. And as long as they stay on schedule, which, you alluded to it, they stayed on schedule. I mean, they've stayed, ahead of the chains and they're scoring every time they touch the football. They're finding a way to put points on the board because they're doing that. And so all of that stuff plays perfectly into who I believe Daniel Jones is as a quarterback. And so I just think right now it's a perfect fit with how this team is playing and what the skill set is of Daniel Jones.
Can it roll on? I mean, Tennessee is next up, and it's this first away from Indianapolis. And Tennessee, as we saw against Bo Nix and Stafford this past week, Tennessee's defense is no joke, man. I mean, Snead's in the back end, and Simmons is up front, and with some other players around. What do you think this week?
Yeah, I mean, they're a competitive football team. And, I think the real test for the Colts is going to be when they fall behind and have to show that they can play catch-up football. If they don't have to do that, and I don't think Tennessee is explosive enough offensively, or at least we haven't seen it, where they're going to jump out to a 2-touchdown lead and force the Colts to play a different brand of football. And so as long as they play this brand of football, I think it can continue to roll. But that's going to be the true test, is when they fall behind, the team's able to jump out on them early, and you force them away from what they really want to do. And that's going to give us a true indication of where Daniel Jones is in this offense, who he is as a quarterback at this stage. Is the same guy that maybe we saw in New York, or has he grown? Is he different, with that change? And so that's going to be the true test. And I don't see Tennessee being able to do that. And so I do believe that the train can roll on for Indianapolis.
Kurt Warner here on the Rich Eisen Show. Listen, we've got backups everywhere. Tyrod Taylor is going to start for the Jets against Tampa. And it could be Marcus Mariota for the Commanders against the Raiders, potentially, if Jaden Daniels is out. Mac Jones already has one start in, and now the Bengals are going to have to play maybe the rest of the season without Joe Burrow. It's Jake Browning's center stage act, and his first is against Carson Wentz, a backup for Minnesota. So how well do you think Browning can perform here? We saw 7 games from him 2 years ago. What do you think, Kurt?
Well, I mean, I think Jake is a solid backup quarterback in the league. And by that, I mean, he can come in and he can win some games for you, and he's going to make some throws. We've seen that. I think the problem here is that, and I don't think anybody's going to argue that he's not Joe Burrow. And, the way the Bengals have been built is on Joe Burrow's right arm, winning games for them, making throw after throw after throw for them. And I'm not sure that's who Jake Browning is as a quarterback in the National Football League. I mean, we saw it last week. He threw 3 interceptions trying to make those kinds of throws and being asked to make a lot of throws down the field. He made some throws and obviously brought him back and won the game for him. And he can definitely do that. But I think it's going to lead to more mistakes for him than it would have been mistakes for Joe Burrow. And that, to me, is what Cincinnati is going to have to figure out, is what style of play can we have with Jake Browning as our quarterback? Are we built that way? Can we have success playing any other way? Because I think most of us feel like they haven't been able to have success other than throwing it all over the yard with Joe Burrow. And so if that's the style that they have to play, I'm concerned about this football team, even though they've started 2-0, being able to be one of the better teams in the AFC. I think they're going to have to adjust their model a little bit. And I'm just not sure that they're built to, play better defense and run the football. And I think it may have to go through the passing game and the guys on the outside. And I think that's a tough task for anybody. So don't get me wrong. I'm not, picking on Jake. That's, there's only a handful of guys in this league that you can say, hey, you got to carry us every week with your right arm, and they can do it. And most of the guys that, are in the backup role right now are guys that you're not going to ask to do that. So that's the interesting thing to me, is are they going to try to play the same style, or is there some way, shape, or form that they can adjust it a little bit so there's not that much pressure on Jake every week?
Has Harbaugh unlocked Justin Herbert? I mean, we saw in Brazil, you and I, and then we saw on Monday night, and so they've won in 2 hemispheres now, and on 2 different days of the week. Friday and a Monday. So what do you think? Has Jim done it with Herbert?
Yeah, I mean, you say unlocked. It's it's an interesting question. Is that what they do offensively is more deliberate. When they get into their passing game, it's a lot of the play actions. It's a lot of what I would call, simpler reads where, you're not asking, 5 guys to go out and the quarterback to have to see things quickly and decipher and get the ball out of their hands. And not that Justin can't do that, but I just don't think that's his greatest strength. What they're doing is more drop back, let things develop, use the big arm, 2 or 3 options, find the throw for those 2 or 3 options. And so, again, I don't want to say unlocked because Justin's been really, really good, but I do think they're playing to what Justin does best and allowing him to take a little bit more time processing and seeing it, and then using that big arm more to push the envelope down the field. I think this style is perfect for who Justin Herbert is. And so if that's what you mean by unlocked, then the answer is yes. But I think it's just a perfect fit with what they're doing and how Justin sees and plays the game. And it's bearing out, obviously, what he did last year, not turning the ball over, making a lot of big plays. And we've seen that through 2 weeks this year as well. A lot of the same concepts you're going to see over and over again. The touchdown to Quentin this past weekend was a play that we saw 2 or 3 times in our game. In our game, it happened to go to the crosser and not the deep one. But they will run those same plays over and over again. And Justin's comfortable with it, and they're very good at it. And that, to me, is what's taken him, to another level just in terms of his efficiency playing the quarterback position.
And only 2 playoff teams from last year have started 0-2, Texans, Chiefs. Which one are you more concerned about, Kurt?
Texans. And I don't know why I say that, because maybe, the team around their quarterback maybe has played a little bit better. But to me, it's, C.J. Stroud just doesn't look like the rookie C.J. Stroud. I mean, and that's amazing for us to say, right? We're looking for this guy that's in his 3rd year to look like he did as a rookie, but he doesn't look like that. He looks uncomfortable. He doesn't look confident when pressure is on him. He's not seeing things. He's not making throws that, he could make in his sleep. And so I don't know what's wrong there. I don't know what's happening with him offensively, and specifically around their quarterback. Was it because of the issues, the offensive line last year, and that's just carried over, and now he's not the same confident guy? I mean, how I talked about him when he was a rookie. I mean, I thought he moved into that top 5 conversation with the way that he saw the field and the way that his technique, his eyes and feet worked together, and he was so solid, all these things. And I don't see any of that now. I mean, the way that they didn't handle pressure against Tampa Bay on Monday night just leaves me so worried about, Todd Bowles in critical situations is going to blitz. How do you not have an answer? How do you find yourself holding the football and taking sacks in those situations when everybody knows that's what's going to happen? And so those are the things that really concern me. Whereas the Chiefs, I've got some concerns. I've got some concerns about them offensively, but they still got 15. And he's the guy that I'm not concerned about, that he's going to find ways to win football games for that team, even when the other pieces aren't right. So I'm not as worried about them right now.
Last one for you, Kurt. I think I'm going to ask this of you every week. I asked you last week. You said Daniel Jones had the best game that you saw on film of every quarterback in Week 1. The Week 2 winner of such a, we'll call it a weekly award. The best quarterback you saw on film in Week 2 is?
That's a good question. I could put Daniel Jones up there again.
Wow.
A couple other guys that I like, though. I like what Jordan Love did, and I like what Matthew Stafford did. I thought Matthew Stafford played a really good game this past weekend. I mean, he's one of those guys that's just really, really fun to watch. And now with Devontae and Puka, I really like what they're going to be as a team. I was concerned about his back issues. Doesn't seem to be a problem, but I thought Staff played really, really well this past weekend. I may give him the nod in week number 2.
Okay. And I'm sure Rams at Eagles will be something you and I will be chopping up on game day morning quite a bit. Coming Sunday, everybody check out the QB Confidential page channel on YouTube for Kurt Warner. It's a must see. Thanks again, Kurt. You're the man. We'll chat over the weekend. See you soon.
All right, buddy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kurt Warner, everybody. Kurt and I will be calling Jets Broncos. Could be Bo Nix, Tyrod Taylor. Who knows? Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.